A win. We get to talk about a win. I'm so excited. We're going to break down the shootout win against the Seattle Kraken on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I've forgotten how to talk about win. It's been 84 years. No. The Blue Jackets break their losing streak at 4 games. Big win against the Seattle Kraken. A strong win as well, right? Like I know it was a 2-1 game, and I'm sure everyone would have loved it to be one of those, good old-fashioned murder games where you win like 7-2 or whatever. But I thought this was, for the most part, a really, really strong game. I still have some questions about coaching decisions, about lineup decisions, etc. But I thought, for the most part, this was a pretty strong game. The goaltending was as good as it needed to be. And I think Jet Greaves will be the first to say that he wasn't the reason they lost in Edmonton, but I think, you would have liked to see a couple of saves from him that he didn't make. And I think he'd be the first to say that, right? He was great in this game, kept the team in it right up until they scored a goal, was great in the shootout as well, made some really, really big saves, including one like right near the end of regulation, I want to say. It was either like right at the end of regulation or right at the end of overtime, the Jordan Eberle like little backhand move that he got like the butt end of his stick on and somehow made that save. Do I think it was on purpose? No. Do I think it was a great save? Yes. Sometimes great saves are the ones that you don't mean to make. Sometimes you are just in the right place. That doesn't make it not a good save. But I thought Jet Greaves was much, much better tonight and was exactly as good as he needed to be. Giving up that goal. I was going to say early. It wasn't early. It was in the first period. It was like 5-ish minutes left in the first period, I think. So not like really early in the game, but the Blue Jackets going into the intermission down 1, and it took them most of the second period to find that tying goal. Adam Fantilli with the power play goal. So Jet kept them in it until they figured out how to score. Which is great, which is exactly what they needed from him. Blue Jackets actually did outshoot the Kraken, so Matt Murray, who I genuinely didn't know was still playing hockey, let alone in the NHL, also had a really great night. He made 33 of 34 saves, so a great night from him. But Jet had a bounce back. 22 of 23 saves is exactly what they needed from him. And again, he, I believe, only allowed 1 goal in the shootout. Blue Jackets scored 2 goals in the shootout, including the Charlie Coyle goal, which I was ready to raise hell about him being chosen as the 4th shooter. But then I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, who do you choose, right? Like, you've got no Kent Johnson. You've sent Fantilli, Marchenko, and Monahan already. Like, do you just say screw it and send Damon Severson, who has like a shockingly high save percentage or shooting percentage in the shootout? They sent Coyle, and hey, he got the job done, right? I'm still not thrilled with his like specific usage. We'll talk about that in a second here, but we're going to talk about the good things, the things that we liked. And Blue Jackets did a good job. They scored on the power play. They didn't concede on the penalty kill, which I counted earlier and then forgot. I believe the last time the Blue Jackets allowed a power play goal was the 1-0 goal against the Islanders. And since then, I think they have killed off 7 or 8 straight penalties. gets a little bit dicey, a little bit confusing because some of those penalties were like truncated for became 4-on-4. Some of them were just short because of offsetting. Someone takes a penalty on the while you're on the power play. So you get a shortened penalty kill or a shortened power play or whatever. So like they have it, but hey, 8 straight penalty kills is 8 straight penalty kills, right? And I don't know whether that means that they have jumped a spot in the penalty kill standings. I'm just looking that up right now. They were 28th before this. They have in fact jumped up to 27th on the penalty kill. I believe they are still dead last in the power play. Oh no, they're 29th on the power play. There are somehow 3 teams worse than the Blue Jackets on the power play. The Rangers, who the Blue Jackets face, I think, this weekend, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Calgary Flames. So hey, they scored a power play goal tonight, an Adam Fantilli goal. I don't know that we can count this as a goal from the top line, despite the fact that I believe the entire top line was on the ice. It would have been Marchenko, Voronkov, Fantilli, and then Monahan and Werenski were on the ice. It was the 5-on-3 power play, so I don't know that we can technically count that as a goal from the top line, especially because I believe Monahan had the assist. Yeah, Monahan and Marchenko with the assists. But since Adam Fantilli has been moved up to that top line, and also because Kent Johnson wasn't in the lineup, we'll talk about that in a second. 2 goals, 3 assists in the last 3 games for Adam Fantilli. Didn't score in the shootout, but it's amazing what a little bit of confidence does to a kid, right? He was god awful on face-offs. After what was he? He was 10-3 in the Edmonton game. And I don't know if I have what his face-off percentage was in this one. I know it's somewhere. There it is. He only took 8 overall, and he only won 1 face-off all game. So, a work in progress still. I feel like, and I'm going to look this up before I say this, so I'm not stupid. The Kraken have actually one of the worst face-off percentages in the league. They are 31st in face-offs. So you would have liked to see a little bit more success in the face-off dot from Fantilli. The Blue Jackets did win 30 of 59 face-offs in total. But most of those wins. Oh, actually, this is that was at 5-on-5. Let's readjust. Yeah, he didn't actually take any face-offs on the power play. That would have been Monahan. Charlie Coyle won 10 and lost 8. Sean Monahan won 15 and lost 7. So that was where your heavy lifting came from on the power plays, on the face-offs, excuse me. Delbo, Belouz, and Lundestrom didn't do great on theirs either. So not a great night for Fantilli on the face-off dot, but basically everywhere else, I thought he was great. He had 5 shots on goal. I don't know what his shot numbers are over the last 3 games, but I suspect it's high. He looks like a different player. And part of that is probably the, playing with Marchenko, a player who can match his speed and match his skill level, etc. But amazing what happened when you give Adam Fantilli real line mates, actual legitimate top 6 line mates, and not, no disrespect, not Boone Jenner and Miles Wood, right? So, like I said, I liked a lot in this game. I thought the lines were the line. What's the word I want? The actual combinations I thought were fine. It drives me insane how much leeway you're giving your third line. I know that they like to play that line as a checking line, and in fairness, the line was fine tonight. They at 5-on-5, they not a lot happened. There was only 10 shot attempts total when that line was on the ice in 8.5 minutes, but they were 6-4 in terms of shot attempts, 4-2 in terms of shots. So, not not a complete disaster. It does continue to surprise me that, again, you see that line constantly starting periods, finishing periods. That line was on the ice in a tie game with like a minute and a half left in regulation, and obviously nothing bad happened. But I don't understand really what Dean Everson sees in this line. And again, the overtime was baffling to me. Like, Sean Monahan goes out there with Marchenko, fine. And then in overtime, so that was your first duo. Then your second duo, for some reason, was Charlie Coyle and Cole Sillinger. Then we got to see Fantilli and Chinikov, which I thought was an odd combination, but I was fine with it. I think Chinikov's a really promising overtime player. And then Lundestrom and Wood come out. Then you get Coyle and Monahan for a little bit. And then you get Fantilli and I think Chinikov for a little bit. Or Fantilli and Lundestrom for a little bit, or Fantilli and Fantilli and Marchenko. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading the shift chart because I don't have my glasses on. And then they finished overtime with Coyle and Sillinger. So, like, again, just a lot of reliance on your veteran players when you should be relying on, guys like Fantilli down the stretch. And I understand they didn't have a great night in the dot, so that's probably why they didn't want to start with him. But he should be playing in more important minutes than right now, right? Again, he in fairness, he did get more regular ice time in this game than the end of the Edmonton game. So, like, in the end of the Edmonton game, he didn't play in the last like 4 minutes, and then didn't play in overtime at all. So good to see him get like some late shifts, and also some overtime shifts, but very, very confusing. And the other thing that's confusing is the defense, because Jake Christensen played. He last played about, as far as I can tell, about halfway through the second period. I don't know. I don't remember anything happening then. Like, there wasn't a goal. There wasn't like a bad penalty. Like, I don't remember a particularly atrocious giveaway from Jake Christensen. But then he didn't play again for the rest of the game. He didn't play for the second half of the second period, and he didn't play for the entire third period. He played a total of like 7 minutes in this game. Let me pull up the ice time. He played 7:13, which was less than Boone Jenner, who got hurt in the game. Who got hurt like in the second period and didn't finish the game. I have questions. Let's take a break actually before I get too in the weeds about the defensive deployment. We'll talk about that in a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Drip Drop, because when I'm hydrated, everything works better. I'm more focused, I've got more energy, my mood is better, even my skin improves, and that's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like, and it's not just your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I've been using it as part of my daily routine. I have been throwing a pack in my water bottle to go to the gym, which is it's a little bit more fun than regular water, and I like having the electrolytes, and it just makes me feel a lot better when I am suffering through my my cardio. So Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall, and I love that for me. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I want to talk a little bit more about the defense, because we're really veering into that slightly worrying territory that we got in last year, which is they don't want to play the third pair, so they just play Zach Werenski a bajillion minutes a night. He hit 31 minutes. Where is it? I've lost him. There he is. 31 minutes, 13 seconds. was how much he played. Literally over triple the amount of ice time that Jake Christiansen got. Other defensemen, Damon Severson played 15:58, Fabro played 16:45, Matejchuk 19:43, Provorov 28:10, and obviously Christensen played 7:13. So they're really, really leaning on Werenski and Provorov as a duo, which I don't think is a great duo that you want to have to rely on. Like, in fairness, I thought that duo was fine in this game, especially if you bring in if you take it all situations. It gets a little bit hairy at 5-on-5, but all situations. Zach Werenski was on the ice for 38 shot attempts for and 27 against. Provorov had a little bit more of a rough time, probably because he does penalty kill a lot. And he was on the ice for 27 shot attempts for and 32 against. If you take that to 5-on-5, Provorov was dead even. Werenski was 22-33 in shot attempts. But he was 11-8 in shots themselves, and Provorov was 13-8 for shots themselves in terms of just 5-on-5 play. So, again, I don't love them relying on this duo so heavily, but they are. So I guess we'll see what happens. It does not bother me necessarily. Bother's the wrong word, and it doesn't really worry me either. I don't know what the word I want is, but if you're not gonna play Jake Christiansen in a game, why are you dressing him? And I understand that that's because they want to play Gabranson 16 minutes a game, and his entire hip has fallen off right now. But if Gabranson's not ready to go, you need to find a defenseman that you want to play, because you can't keep playing Zach Werenski. I think he hit he was at 28:50 or something like that at the end of regulation. You cannot be playing your defenseman for half of the game. I know that Werenski played a lot last year, and he likes to do that, and he is one of those guys that is going to play a lot regardless. But I keep going back to, how good would Zach Werenski be if you took his 28 minutes or whatever he's averaging right now? It's not quite that much. I think he's averaging about 26 minutes. If you took his 26 minutes on average and condensed that down into 22 minutes, and how much better he would be if he didn't have to play fully half the game. He's averaging 26:45 right now, which actually is exactly how much he averaged last season. It's always been like this. His career average is just under 24 minutes that he averages. He's gonna play a lot of minutes regardless, right? But man, imagine if you didn't have to do that because you had a third pairing that you could rely on. And I don't understand what I like Jay Christensen a lot. I think he is a much better defenseman than Dean Everson gives him credit for. But for whatever reason, it's the same thing as Chinikov, right? And I think we're starting to see, to an extent, Ken Johnson, and we'll talk about Ken Johnson in a second here. But sometimes, and what I'm kind of realizing is that sometimes I think Dean just decides that he doesn't want to play a player, and there's not a lot that player can do to fight his way back. Look at how short Chinikov's leash was. He's only playing right now, I think, because there's sickness. And there were a lot of guys on this team, I think, that are probably healthy enough, not too sick to play, but also were clearly not having a good time of it, right? Which kind of brings me to my next point, which is, man, I really hope that Ken Johnson scratch was because he's sick and not because he's a healthy scratch. Because if he was healthy scratched, I'm going to manifest in Dean Everson's house while he's asleep and yell at him. I don't understand. I don't understand what Ken Johnson has to do. And I see people on Twitter being like, yeah, it was deserved. He's been terrible. He's been awful this season. He, yes, he's a fourth line player that deserves to be scratched. And we simply must be watching different players. Yes, he hasn't put the points up. He is still one of the best players on the Blue Jackets at generating offense. That's just straight up true. he's having a really, really good season, and I feel insane. Like the only player that's doing better than him in terms of creating offense is Cole Sullinger right now, and Dyson Mayo, who has played one game. But Kent Johnson right now it has 53%, almost 54% of the shot attempt share when he's on the ice, which is good for third on the team if you include Dyson Mayo. Like, I don't understand what he has to do beyond like somehow manifesting the shooting percentage going back up to normal, but he's creating a lot of offense. He's driving the play. I don't know, man. It'll rebound. It is extremely frustrating to see him get benched when he is outplaying many other players on this team, some of who are being put on the ice in must-win situations. So I've decided that it was a scratch because he was sick and not because he was healthy scratch over players that were clearly not 100% because they're still sick. Because if that was the case, like, I'm gonna go postal about it. Also, that being said, that has to be why Jet Greaves played back to back. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting an Elvis game. They declined to say why Jet Greaves was playing. But like, you look at Elvis on the bench and he's like basically entirely inside his jersey and has like what I assume was a cold towel wrapped around his entire neck, and he just looked like the most miserable anyone has ever looked. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's sick. He is not good. So my guess is that he'll play Thursday, I believe is the next game. But yeah, he looked like he was having a rough time. Even sitting on the bench. So fully understand why Jet Greaves played. And again, good for Jet Greaves to bounce back after a weak performance against the Oilers. And honestly, he wasn't like great against the Flames either. So he's had 2 bad games in a row. He had a really good game tonight. And I looked it up, and again, I've seen a couple of people on Twitter talking about this, which does make me feel vaguely insane. Of people saying like, "Well, yeah, Greaves is terrible. Elvis is obviously the better goalie," and I have questions about that because of Jets. I think he's played 9 games this season. Locked on Blue Jackets bingo. If you have Jay opens a tab and then closes it because he thinks he's done with it. Jet has played 9 games so far this season. He's 4-4-1 in these games. He has had a save percentage below so his save percentage on average is a 901 right now. He's had 3 bad games, and we're counting a bad game as under 900 for these purposes. Against Washington, he had an 883. Against Calgary, he had an 840, and then Edmonton, he had a 792. So, like, again, like those 3 games, yeah, okay, stats weren't good enough. Beyond those 3 games, and I'm not saying that we take those out because that's not how cherry picking stats is not the move here. Apart from those 3 bad games, his lowest save percentage has been a 917. He had 957 last night. Jets, fine. Yes, Elvis has been extremely good this season, and I believe is currently sitting on like a 907 or a 908. Yeah, a 908. But like, again, of his 7 games that he's played, 2 of those have been below a 900 save percentage, right? So the games that Jet has had quote unquote meltdowns in, like, are not standard games. Like, that's not the norm, right? And similarly, I think that Elvis having quote unquote meltdowns is not necessarily the norm. I've liked both goalies a lot. I'm not sitting here saying that Jet Greaves is better than Elvis Merzlikins, but standing on Twitter and saying with your entire chest that Jet is a terrible goalie and Elvis is a great goalie, I would really, really love to know what they were saying about the goaltending last season. because I do think that there is a huge recency bias happening right now. But I don't know. I'm just some schmuck with a microphone judging people on Twitter. So who knows? Let's take another quick break. And then I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the trip in general, and what happens now that they're heading back to Nationwide. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. I love to do an insane same game parlay. Like, this guy's going to score a goal, and this guy's going to score a goal, and this guy's going to score a goal. And if all three of those things happen, then you win $1 bajillion. You can do a much more normal same game parlay, but no matter what you do, like, FanDuel keeps every game exciting, especially if your team is making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's finish off by kind of talking about the road trip in general, because I'm not going to sit here and say that this one win against the Kraken has kind of erased all of the frustrations of this road trip. I think it's good that they got a win. 3 points out of 10 is not good enough, especially when you look at some of the teams that you gave points to, right? Like, for example, the Calgary Flames. No disrespect to the Calgary Flames, they're at the bottom of the league. Why are you giving them 2 points? Why are you letting them outscore you 5-1? Like, you're better than that. Similarly, they probably shouldn't have let the Canucks win that game in regulation. Like, if you want to take that game to overtime and lose then, fine. And similarly, the Oilers, that's a game that you have to win in regulation if you want to be a serious team, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that this win erases all of the frustrations from this. And I do think that there are still red flags with this team. I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't, but I'm also not going to sit here and, like, doom and gloom and this is not a playoff team and this is a terrible team. And, you know, like, the hockey season is a marathon, not a sprint. And I was kind of joking when I talked to someone about this on Twitter during the game, or like just previous to the game. And they were like, you know, man, glass half full, really stopping me from, you know, helping me step away from the edge of, you know, dooming about this team. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm in my mid-30s at this point. I don't have the blood pressure to be mad about this team for all 82 games. Maybe they miss the playoffs. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they finish 1 point out again. I don't know. I do know that at this point last season, they were in a worse spot, and they figured it out, right? So like how you can't judge a team based on a 3-game win streak, which is what they were on, or a 4-game win streak, excuse me. A 4-game win streak before the road trip started and everything went to hell. I also don't think you can judge this team based on a 4-game losing streak, right? They're probably somewhere in the middle. Things will regress. Things will reset. They're not going to be as bad as they were on this streak, but they're also probably not going to be as good as they were on the previous win streak, right? Again, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So, do I wish the road trip had gone better? Yeah, but I'm also kind of unsurprised. This team loves to be bad, especially if I stay up late. And I don't know if it's because I'm specifically watching and they know that it's 5 a.m. for me, but they love to be bad on the Western Canada swing. They love to be bad on the Western California swing, which we have to look forward to. I think half of it is next month and half of it is in January. So we got that to look forward to whenever they go to California, now that all 3 of the California teams are winning right now. Which is going to be really interesting what happens in Anaheim when Leo Carlson is no longer shooting at like 35%. But that's a whole other thing that we don't have to get into right now. Overall, yeah, it wasn't a great road trip. I'm not willing to sell the team down the river over a stretch of 4 games. You know, am I worried about some of the underlyings of this team? Yes. Am I worried about some of the coaching decisions that are being made about this team? Yes. But there's things to like about this team as well, right? Like that top line, I love seeing Adam Fantilli figure it out. I love seeing Denton Matejchuk figure it out. He had kind of a rough game in Edmonton. I thought he was better tonight or last night against Seattle. Like, I think the goaltending is worlds better than what we're used to, right? So yeah, even if they have bad games, I'm still kind of cautiously optimistic about the goaltending. There's things to like, right? There's things to not like as well. Maybe I'm just sitting on the fence here, but I'm not willing to throw this team away 16 games into the season because of one losing streak, and I'm not willing to give them the cup because of one winning streak. We'll see where they are on American Thanksgiving, which is in 2 weeks, question mark. I should know it, and I don't. My guess is it's in 2 weeks. And if they're in a playoff spot by then, great. If they're not, then we'll see what happens. I'm really, really relieved that they got that win, and I'm relieved that I got to talk about a win instead of doing a 5th straight episode of this is bad and this is why this team is bad and I'm annoyed and etc. It's so much more fun to talk about a win, so I'm excited that I got to do that. Tomorrow we get to talk about the Edmonton Oilers again. Great. Personally, I would rather not, but hey, that's what the schedule says. The rules say that we have to play the Oilers, so we're going to talk about the Oilers, and hopefully we will not get McDavided again. Knock on wood. So that's tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening to this episode, making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at, you can find the show on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBEFORSTER. You can also find the show over on Blue Sky at LO-Blue Jackets. Shout out to the predictions of the predictions leaderboard. We were 15 games in before this one, so I did a little leaderboard. So congratulations to Sparky Wilson, who is currently winning, to Luke Risco in 2nd place, and Dan Good, who is in 3rd place. We'll be back with more predictions again tomorrow. We'll talk about the Oilers. And also what I want to talk about tomorrow, so as not to do a full 30 minutes of Oilers talk, is someone on Twitter, I believe it was Dan Good, actually, asked about this team and their love of icing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch some tape today, and we'll talk about that in tomorrow's episode as well, because the way that this team loves to ice the puck does make me feel a little bit insane. So that's also going to happen tomorrow. Thank you once again for listening to this episode, and until then, make sure you stay locked on.